A very good morning. You're watching Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tina Jha with the breakfast news. These are the headlines we are tracking at this hour. Some respite for people in Tamil Nadu as water levels in main rivers begin to recede following halt in rain. Prime Minister announces 1,000 crore rupees more as flood relief. Defense Minister to begin historic visit to the United States. Manohar Parrikar to meet US counterpart Ashton Carter, expected to discuss possible programs under the Make in India initiative. New draft deal out at climate summit after 3 days of hectic parleys. No agreement yet as India seeks international support to reduce reliance on coal and shift to cleaner energy sources. US President Barack Obama says possibility of California shooting being a terrorist act not ruled out. This as US authorities reveal attackers had a mass stockpile of explosives and ammunition. And South Africa's Supreme Court of Appeal scales up charges against Oscar Pistorius. He now faces 15-year prison term after being found guilty of murder. As we speak, a meeting is presently on at the Home Ministry over the flood situation in Chennai. The Home Secretary is heading the meeting that is being attended by the Director General of the NDRF. There is some respite from the rains in Chennai after a halt in rainfall.
रेन नहीं है फिर भी वाटर लॉगिंग है, उसके कारण लोगों को समस्याएं हो रही हैं। आज साउथ चेन्नई के सभी इलाकों में हम जाएंगे और हमने टीम्स का सेक्टर में बांट दिया है और उनको देख रहे हैं कि हम किस तरह उनके पास पहुंचेंगे। अभी तक हम लोगों ने 9,000 से ज़्यादा लोगों को रेस्क्यू किया है। अभी बहुत सुधार हुआ है। उन इलाकों में जहां पानी नहीं जमा हुआ है वहां पावर रेस्टोरेशन हुआ है, कम्युनिकेशंस नेटवर्क में भी सुधार हुआ है।
So there's temporary relief for people in Tamil Nadu. There have been no fresh rains since last evening and the water levels in the Adya River is also receding. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who visited the state yesterday, has announced 1,000 crore rupees as flood relief package. The worst floods in Tamil Nadu in more than a century has already claimed 250 lives. As Chennai grapples with its worst flooding in over a century, there's a small glimmer of hope. The Met Department says the worst is over for the Tamil Nadu capital. There have been no fresh rains in the city since Thursday evening. However, the next 48 hours will be crucial.
Next 48 hours, entire Tamil Nadu coast is going to receive fairly widespread rainfall, with isolated heavy to very heavy and at a few places extremely heavy rainfall.
In signs of easing of situation, the water levels of Adyar and Kumbh rivers have fallen considerably following reduced discharge from reservoirs like Chembarampakkam, Maduntakkam and Puza lakes late Thursday night. Earlier, the Adyar river had overflowed the Saidapet bridge that completely stopped traffic on the Mount Road. Rescue teams have intensified the evacuation process. Over 5,000 people were evacuated on Thursday. Those stranded at the Chennai airport were also airlifted.
Situation is not good there in the Chennai airport. Lights are also off now. Everything is shut down. The situation is not good. So we have been airlifted.
Now feeling relaxed basically that we came out of Chennai. That was a relaxed feeling. And airport support was there. People were supportive. Food was being provided to us. But yesterday the lights went off in the airport also. It has become completely dark.
The naval base at Arakonam has been readied for commercial flights, which will begin service from today. But for residents stuck in their homes, patience is running out. Stranded in their homes for several days, they say their food stocks are running out. Many are still stranded on roads, unable to reach their homes. With no power and telephone connectivity, it's becoming increasingly difficult for people.
Everywhere, if you see from this side to that side to this side, everywhere it is water. People are finding it very difficult to find a shop to buy groceries. Everything is closed.
ஆலயம் கட்டியதாக 10 வருஷமா இருக்கோம் நாங்கள். இது வரைக்கும் இந்த மாதிரி மழை பார்த்தது கிடையாது. இப்போதான் இந்த வருஷம் இந்த மாதிரி மழை. அதனால வீட்லாம் ஃபுல்லாக தண்ணி வந்துருச்சு, படுக்க முடியல. அதனால கார் எடுத்துட்டு இங்கே விட்டு படுத்துருக்கோம்.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi took stock of the situation in the rain-battered state of Tamil Nadu. He conducted an aerial survey of the affected areas. He also met Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha and promised her all possible support.
So even as the floodwaters are receding, it obviously will take a while for normalcy to return. Meanwhile, the flood havoc in Chennai found way at the Global Climate Change Summit. French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius expressed solidarity with those affected. He said the unprecedented magnitude of the flooding confirms that time is running out and concrete and urgent action needs to be taken against climatic disruption. Earlier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had also mentioned that the Chennai rains ahead of his Paris visit, indicating that it is an impact of climate change. Meanwhile, talking of climate change summit, India has sought international support to reduce its reliance on coal at the climate change summit being held in Paris. New Delhi has also sought assistance from developed nations to shift to cleaner energy sources with adequate finances and technology. This comes at a time when negotiators at the Climate Change Summit have unveiled a new draft deal on which there was still no agreement. Following 3 days of hectic parleys over a complex 54-page draft pack, negotiators released a document 4 pages shorter, but still there was reportedly no agreement on about 250 undecided options across the text. India's key negotiator has told world leaders that India's larger fraction of the growth of its electricity sector to come from renewables. The 12-day climate conference aims to achieve, for the first time in over 20 years of UN negotiations, a legally binding and universal agreement on climate with the aim of keeping global warming below 2 degrees Celsius over pre-industrial temperatures.
We need a text to accompany concrete actions, and we need finance to finance concrete actions, because we have to give people all around the world the proof that we work hard to give solutions.
Meanwhile, Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar will leave for a key visit to the United States today. During his visit that concludes on 12 December, Parrikar will take forward the Defence Trade and Technology Initiative, or the DTTI, as both countries work towards greater collaboration in joint development and manufacture of next-gen military tech. Parrikar will meet his American counterpart Ashton Carter, and both of them are set to review the joint working group on aircraft carrier under DTTI, as well as identify technologies that could be acquired by India on government-to-government basis. Both Parrikar and Carter are also expected to discuss possible programs under the Make in India initiative. And External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj has proposed to send an all-party delegation to Nepal. Speaking in the Rajya Sabha to a calling attention notice, Swaraj asserted that India has not imposed any blockade and in fact was trying to reroute supplies via available routes and by air. Swaraj said that the present state of confrontation in Nepal needs to be addressed credibly and effectively by political parties and people there. The calling attention motion was moved by Pawan Verma of the JDU, who said that the matter was serious and of concern to the country. After members felt that less time was allotted to the debate, Sushma Swaraj suggested that it should be converted into a short duration discussion, which will now take place on Monday.
भारत और नेपाल के बीच सदियों पुराने विशिष्ट संबंध हैं। ये संबंध हमारे साझा भूगोल, इतिहास, संस्कृति, भाषा और धर्म पर आधारित हैं। दोनों देशों के बीच घनिष्ठ राजनीतिक संबंध और व्यापक आर्थिक सहयोग भी है, तथा हमारे लोगों के बीच गहरी मित्रता भी है।
My point, sir, is that if we needed to have a special envoy, did the special envoy need to go at this late stage? And could a special envoy not have been appointed right from the beginning when we saw the crisis emerging? This is a suggestion for the future because we want a resolution to the problem.
Nepal situation is extremely important and extremely crucial. We cannot rush through a debate like this with 2 minutes and 3 minutes. We have a great deal to say.
It is not a debate.
Some of us have been involved half all our lives in Nepal. You have to give more time. I'm sorry.
Time for a very short break here. Some more national news and all the international updates when we return.
This is the great Indian Thar Desert. Not many can survive in this place. In this very special episode of the National Security Series, we see first-hand and unseen areas of sand dunes and see how BSF is guarding this difficult territory along the Indo-Pak borderline.
Where we are in Rajasthan, here the vagaries of weather are so extreme that in winters the temperature goes to 0 degree, whereas in summer the temperature goes up to 50 degree. It's a blazing heat.
Watch a super exclusive episode in National Security Series. BSF in Thar Desert.
Welcome back. Well, the Delhi Assembly has passed a bill approving a 400% hike in salary of the Delhi MLAs and ministers. This is besides a significant hike in a slew of allowances considering rising cost of living. The Delhi government will now send the bill to the centre, and if it is approved, then basic salaries of legislators will rise from the current 12,000 rupees to rupees 50,000, and their overall monthly package will be around 2.1 lakh rupees as against the existing 88,000 rupees. As per the provisions of the bill, the basic salary of a minister will be around 80,000 rupees, which is currently only 20,000. If the centre approves the bill, then salaries of Delhi legislators will be among the highest in the country. In July, a group of Aam Aadmi Party legislators had demanded a significant hike in salary, arguing that their earnings were not enough to run their family and offices.
Surprising that the party which was talking about corruption and which was talking of eradicating corruption, Jan Lokpal was their priority which they portrayed. But actually their priority is to increase their own salary, to get more and more benefit. A party which was always criticizing the political class, that they are corrupt, they live in big bungalows, they use cars, they have a lot of money. What this party is doing? Before Jan Lokpal, they have cleared the bill of their own salaries.
And now a look at what else is expected to make news in our special segment the day ahead. The 5-day India International Science Festival will begin in Delhi. The festival, which will end on the 8th of December, is jointly being organized by the Ministries of Science and Technology and Earth Sciences. Minister of Science and Technology Dr. Harshvardhan will inaugurate the Technology and Industry Expo later today. The 2-day Forum on China-Africa Cooperation will begin in Johannesburg. Chinese President Xi Jinping and South African President Jacob Zuma will co-chair the summit, which will be attended by several African heads of state. Discussions are likely to center on how much China will extend in new loans as its own economic growth slows, while African nations may push for debt moratoriums and technology transfers. The 12-nation OPEC, or Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, will meet in Vienna today. A decision is likely to be made on production policies. The group goes into the meeting as global supply of oil is far outpacing demand and depressing crude prices that its members rely on for their national budgets. Moving on to some international news now. Authorities in the United States are still struggling to work out why a man and a woman reportedly opened fire after a dispute at his employer's Christmas party in California. Syed Rizwan Farooq and Tashfeen Malik were killed in a shootout with the police after Wednesday's massacre in which 14 people were killed. Here's more.
Authorities said on Thursday they're looking for a motive behind the deadliest US mass shooting in nearly 3 years, even as they revealed that the attackers had amassed a stockpile of explosives and ammunition. The rampage by US-born Syed Rizwan Farooq and his wife Tashfeen Malik on Wednesday left 14 dead and 21 wounded. San Bernardino Police Chief Gerard Bourgon said the shooting spree had clearly been planned in advance and that the suspects left several explosive devices, which appeared to be pipe bombs, at the scene of the massacre.
We had been working on what we felt were explosive devices left at the scene. We confirmed that we believe that those were explosive devices. I think about an hour or two ago, the bomb squad finally disposed of those particular items. So we are just now getting in there and starting to process the crime scene per se.
Officials in Washington familiar with the investigation said so far there was no hard evidence of a direct connection between the shooters and any militant group abroad. But the electronics would be checked to see if the couple had been browsing on jihadist websites or social media.
It would be irresponsible and premature of me to call this terrorism. The FBI defines terrorism very specifically, and we are still, that is the big question for us, is what is the motivation for this? First and foremost, the integrity of this investigation, again, is paramount. Secondly, it's ultimately to determine the motive and the inspiration for this attack.
Speaking from the Oval Office at the White House, US President Barack Obama said the shootings in San Bernardino could be terror-related or workplace-related, and that at this point, the motive is not clear.
It is possible that this was terrorist-related, but we don't know. It's also possible that this was workplace-related. What I can assure the American people is we're going to get to the bottom of this, and that we are going to be vigilant, as we always are, in getting the facts before we issue any decisive judgments in terms of how this occurred.
While ordering flags to float half-mast in memory of the victims, Obama said as a country, the US needs to take basic steps to make it harder for certain individuals to get access to weapons, and promised investigators will get to the bottom of the shooting.
We're going to have to, I think, search ourselves as a society to make sure that we can take basic steps that would make it harder, not impossible, but harder for individuals to get access to weapons.
Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton said that the vast majority of Muslims are heartbroken by the California shooting spree and criticizes Congress for failing to restrict gun sales to people on terrorism watch list. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's now take a look at all the other news from around the world in World Wrap. The European Union suffered another blow on Thursday when Denmark voted to reject just a small step to further integrate with the bloc. Denmark has rejected adopting EU rules on cross-border policing. Denmark's centre-right government had wanted to abandon some Danish opt-outs from EU Home Affairs legislation. But with all votes now counted, more than 53% said no to the proposals. Denmark will now have to negotiate a special agreement to stay inside Europol, the EU's law enforcement agency which tackles organised crime and terrorism. Greece has asked the European Union for help in managing its borders as thousands of migrants remain stuck on its northern frontier with Macedonia. A young Moroccan migrant was electrocuted amid clashes between police and the migrants stranded for weeks on the Greek side. EU interior ministers will meet on Friday to discuss Greece's ability to control the flow of migrants. The United States has announced that all combat roles in the US military will now be open to women. US Defense Secretary Ashton Carter said as long as they qualify and meet the standards, women will now be able to contribute to our mission in ways they could not before. The move will lead to some 220,000 openings for women. Carter is to give the armed services 30 days to submit plans to make the change. 2 more men have been charged in Belgium in connection with the 13 November Paris terror attacks. The 2 were held in Brussels, bringing the number of people charged in Belgium to 8. Belgian prosecutors said a 20-year-old Frenchman listed at Samir Z had been stopped at Zaventem Airport, was preparing to board a flight to Morocco in the early hours of Sunday. Attackers armed with automatic rifles and suicide belts had killed 130 people at a number of sites in Paris. Less than 2 months after being put in house arrest, South Africa's Blade Runner Oscar Pistorius faces prison yet again. Pistorius has been found guilty of the murder of Reeva Steenkamp after South Africa's Supreme Court of Appeal scaled up the previous conviction of culpable homicide. He now faces a sentence of minimum 15 years.
In a verdict that virtually ends Oscar Pistorius' athletic career, South Africa's top appeals court overturned the earlier conviction of culpable homicide to murder. The judge called the circumstances surrounding Pistorius' girlfriend Riva Steenkamp's death a human tragedy of Shakespearean proportions. The ruling rested over the concept of dolus eventualis on whether Pistorius should have foreseen his actions would lead to death. Judge Eric Leach slammed the earlier verdict, saying the identity of the victim is irrelevant to Pistorius' guilt.
I conclude with the following order being to be made. 1. The first two questions of law reserved are answered in favour of the Director of Public Prosecutions. 2. The accused's conviction and sentence on count 1 are set aside and replaced with the following. Guilty of murder, with the accused having had criminal intent in the form of dolus eventualis. 3. The matter is referred back to the trial court to consider an appropriate sentence afresh in the light of the comments in this judgment.
Prosecutors had appealed the verdict of culpable homicide, seeking a conviction on more severe charges, arguing that Pistorius had intentionally killed Steenkamp following an argument. Many in South Africa were upset by the original acquittal, including women's rights groups, because of the high number of women who were killed by their partners in the country. Steenkamp's mother welcomed the ruling, saying the conviction is a victory for all women in South Africa.
I see this as the truth, and the success is due to the justice system and God. But this is respect for my daughter and her life also, and respect for women all over this country, because we have too much of this happening and people get away with it. And now we have seen that the justice system works.
In October, Pistorius was allowed to move to house detention after he served a year of his original 5-year sentence in jail. His jail term has not been decided, but he now faces up to 15 years in prison. Pistorius can challenge the ruling in a constitutional court, but only if his lawyers can argue that his constitutional rights have been violated. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And India scored 231 for the loss of 7 wickets on day 1 in the 4th and final test in Delhi. Winning the toss against South Africa and opting to bat first, the hosts got off a cautious start. At lunch, they were 60 for 1, but all of that changed post-lunch when they lost 5 wickets in quick succession. Ajinkya Rahane's maiden 50 on home soil helped India bounce back after South African off-spinner Dane Pate took a 4-wicket haul. Pate dismissed opener Murali Vijay in the morning before claiming 3 more wickets after lunch to put the Proteas in the box seat. Pacer Kyle Abbott claimed the other 3 wickets. The South Africans will be backing their bowlers to finish off the first innings quickly. India, who already won the 4-match series 2-0, will look to stretch their first innings lead beyond the 300 mark. Some more sports news in the Sports Beat. Leaving behind their disappointing league campaign, India produced an inspired performance to upstage world number 4 Great Britain 2-1 and enter the semi-finals of the Hockey World League final in Raipur. World number 6 India came into the match as underdogs, having finished last in Pool B with just 1 point. Its reward would be Saturday's semi-final against Belgium, which beat Argentina by an identical margin in the other quarter-final match. India's ace shuttler PV Sindhu stormed into the quarter-finals of the Indonesian Open at Malang today. Sindhu defeated Indonesia's Wulan Sukuputra 21-12, 21-9 in straight games. In the men's singles, K. Srikanth and Guru Sai Dutt progressed to the pre-quarter-finals. Srikanth defeated Indonesia's Vicky Saputra, while Guru Sai Dutt beat Singapore's Keen Loh. Two high-ranking FIFA officials were arrested by Swiss authorities during pre-dawn raids in Zurich on Thursday. According to Swiss officials, the two were arrested for allegedly to have taken money for selling marketing rights in connection with football tournaments in Latin America as well as World Cup qualifying matches. Well, that's it from us in this bulletin. My colleague Amrita will be back with Rajya Sabha Samachar in a short while from now. Do stay with us.